Well, good morning, everyone. It is 6 o'clock on your Saturday morning. We made it through another work week. Thanks for starting your weekend with us here on 13 Sunrise. I'm Matthew Foltz alongside Lindsay Monroe. Did you have a good weekend?
I don't remember. It was like a week and a half ago. This is my last day. It's been great filling in for Chuck Lofton.
Yeah.
We know that he is having a big adventure.
That's right.
And we are so excited to hear those stories. He will actually be back tomorrow morning. He's going to fill in for me, and he'll be back next week. Had some questions about, well, where did Chuck go? You know he's having a good time.
Oh, yeah. Wherever he goes, he always has a good time, and he'll give us the details when he gets back.
Right.
You're going to be off to some much-needed rest, my friend.
Yeah.
But today, those of you who got some rest, we're starting off to a chilly start.
Yes,
this,
and
weekend.
At least it's not frosty.
That's true.
Yes,
that
so
is true.
That is the bigger change today versus some mornings we've had this past week. Temperatures have been, well, they dropped as low as 27 degrees in places like Kokomo and Lafayette. We are well above that, but we are still on the cool side of things overall. Marion is now at 33. It is 38 in Tipton, and Frankfort is at 37. So we're pretty close to that frost threshold, but I believe we're going to stay just above that for today. Temperatures across the Indy Metro, we are at 44 in the city, 38 in Newcastle right now, Shelbyville through Greenwood and Martinsville, all right now at 40 degrees. And with a southerly wind across southern Indiana, we will see a big time warming trend later on this afternoon. Although in the meantime, it's still just 37 down in Bloomington, 41 in Nashville, and 38 in Seymour. Over the next few hours, we will see a nice warming trend, and we're already starting to see that. Even comparing our temperatures outside right now to where we were this time yesterday, we are all in the positive territory, so we're all getting elevated from a temperature standpoint, and that will be the trend into this afternoon. We're going to keep skies clear, plenty of sunshine later today as we approach the low 70s for highs. Temperatures will continue to trend upward today, tomorrow, back into the low 70s and even the mid 70s early next week. We're going to break down those warmer changes coming up in your 7-day forecast.
Well, testimony is now underway in the Delphi murders trial. Richard Allen is charged with the murder of Abby Williams and Libby German. They went missing more than 2 years ago on the Monon High Trail. Their bodies were discovered the next day. On day one of the prosecution and defense, they both laid out their theories of this case, and Abby and Libby's family members took the witness stand. Our Emily Longnecker was inside the courtroom.
This was the first day the jury heard from witnesses in this case. Most of them were family members of Abby and Libby, who talked about two young girls who loved playing volleyball, loved being in band, who were dear friends that loved each other. Some of the most heart-wrenching testimony came from Libby's grandmother, Becky Patty, who testified she told Libby to take a jacket that day before she went out. And Libby told her, quote, "Grandma, I'll be okay." Patty recalled trying to get in touch with Libby after the girls didn't show up at the spot where Libby's dad went to pick them up. Patty said, quote, "We called. We kept calling and kept calling." Patty also recalled the moment the next day when investigators called to say they had found the girls. Patty testified she thought that meant they were okay, saying, quote, "I couldn't understand why they weren't taking me to her. And then I saw the coroner's van drive by, and that's when I realized they weren't alive." Kelsey Siebert, Libby's older sister, also testified about how close they were, saying, quote, "She was more like my best friend than a sister." Siebert described dropping the girls off at the bridge that day for a hike. After 4, she said her grandmother called to say Abby and Libby were missing, so she met family at the bridge to search for them. Abby's mother, Anna Williams, teared up and paused when she was asked to describe her only child. She called Abby shy and very kind, saying she loved to read. Williams said she didn't know Abby was going to the bridge that Monday after letting her sleep over at Libby's the night before. Williams said she was at work at a local bar when she missed back-to-back calls from Becky Patty. When Williams answered, she said she learned her daughter and Libby were missing. Williams testified she told her boss she'd probably be back, saying, quote, "I don't know what these girls are up to, but it's probably not that big of a deal." This trial is scheduled until mid-November. Friday, both sides laid out a roadmap of the arguments they'll present to the jury. In opening statements, the prosecution said the jury will see gruesome crime scene photos of the girls after they were murdered and hear testimony from witnesses who place Allen at the crime scene. The prosecution also plans to let the jury hear confessions from Richard Allen during his time in custody. The defense told the jury the state's investigation was messed up from the beginning and that Richard Allen is truly innocent. They said there's reasonable doubt and that the prosecution's case is going to fall apart before your very eyes. In Delphi, Emily Longnecker, 13 News.
And it's also worth mentioning that cameras are not allowed inside the courtroom during the Delphi murders trial. Meanwhile, another big development in court on Friday, composite sketches of a supposed suspect will not be allowed in the trial. That means jurors won't see or hear about them. Police released these composite sketches back in 2017 and 2019. The images were widely circulated, but the prosecutor says they were not used to identify Richard Allen. Now, our legal analyst Katie Jackson Lindsay said there were surprising moments in the courtroom yesterday. There were two things that really stood out to her. Our Karen Campbell breaks down the legal analysis of these new developments.
It was the Carroll County prosecutor's 15-minute opening statement that stood out to legal analyst Katie Jackson Lindsay. Prosecutor Nick McClelland said the case is about three things: the bridge guy, the unspent bullet found at the scene, and the brutal murders of Libby and Abby.
The state's opening statement was brief, it was broad, it didn't give us a whole lot of new information outside of what we've already gleaned from the pretrial proceedings.
Then came the defense. Attorney Andrew Baldwin spent an hour giving the opening statement, focusing on reasonable doubt. Baldwin told jurors a hair found in Abby's hand had a root with DNA that was never tested. Baldwin also told the jury none of Allen's DNA was found at the scene and no other forensic evidence placed him there.
The defense really leaned into the issues that the state is going to have with their evidence. And I think that's telling. And I think it shows us that there's really going to be an uphill battle for the state.
Jackson Lindsay was surprised to learn additional cell phone evidence will be admitted in court. Ping data that can reveal the location of a phone at specific times, showing whether it moved from one place to another.
And that could be even more impactful than the audio that we've been hearing for many years, because it may suggest that the bodies were actually moved, which could play into whether or not Richard Allen had the ability and opportunity to commit this crime.
A crime that has shaken not only the Delphi community, but the families of Libby German and Abby Williams.
That was our Karen Campbell reporting, and as she said, this case and this trial has had an immeasurable effect on Delphi. It's a city of about 2,300 people. Now the attention on this small community has left many residents there frustrated. We saw not welcome signs on most businesses around the town square. Seats inside the courtroom are limited, but there were lines that started forming Thursday night and people wanting a spot inside.
And I've been in Indiana since this happened. You know, I lived one county over, and the fact that they had so many people that came in from, YouTube to get in, and some of them were from media that also got in that, weren't getting in on their credential passes and stuff, that the limited amount of seats for the residents was so limited. I couldn't even get in. There was only 2 people from the county of Carroll that got in, and it's just really sad and disappointing.
And because of the added traffic in Delphi, there is added security, fencing, barriers, and cameras around the courthouse. Now, today will be day 2 of testimony in Carroll County. Our senior investigative reporter Bob Siegel will be in the courtroom and bring you the full report on tonight on 13 News at 6. And be sure to watch our Delphi debrief show right now on WTHR+. It's an in-depth look at the trial. Our Bob Siegel, Emily Longnecker, and our legal expert all break down major developments from the courtroom weeknights at 10 p.m. You can also stream that show on demand on the WTHR+ right now. It's a free streaming app. You can get it on Apple TV, Amazon Fire Stick, and Roku. Well, 609 new this morning. Metro Police are investigating after a person was hit and killed overnight on the city's west side. It happened around 12:30 on West Morris Street near Washington and I-465. IMPD says the man was hit in the parking lot of a business near there and died at the scene. Police also say this was initially looked into as a hit and run, but now it's being investigated as a homicide. We will pass along any new information as soon as we learn more from police. Well, 2 people are in critical condition this morning after a shooting near Eskenazi Hospital. This was the scene in just after 2 o'clock yesterday afternoon near 10th and Indiana Avenue. Officers say they were dispatched there for a crash. When they got to the scene, they tell us they found 2 people with gunshot wounds inside of a wrecked SUV that you see right there on your screen. Police believe the shooting happened inside of the vehicle. They also found a gun at the scene. Now to an update about a deadly shooting earlier this month here in Indianapolis. Metro Police say they have now arrested a suspect in Pittsburgh. Officers were called to a reported shooting at 12th and Tibbs on October 5th. They arrived to find a 38-year-old Brandon Lewis with gunshot wounds. He died at the scene. Now Metro Police say they have arrested a 33-year-old man saying he confessed to shooting him. The Marion County Coroner's Office and prosecutors will determine what charges the suspect will face. Well, this morning, 2 teenagers are under arrest facing preliminary murder charges. The 14-year-old and 16-year-old boys are both accused in the death of 38-year-old Jerry Thompson Jr. Someone shot and killed him last month at an apartment complex on the northwest side. Police say they've identified the teens as people of interest after the shooting. They were arrested on Thursday.